Hello and welcome to the Dash News podcast. This is episode 111. I'm Mark
11P1.
Yeah, I'm Mark Mason and I'm joined by my fellow host and amigo, Joel Valenzuela. How goes it?
I'm going very well.
Oh, I went Ken Bozek then. I didn't even intentionally mean to do that. But you having a good Friday?
Yes, I'm having a day.
Excellent, excellent. And you're caffeinated up.
Oh, getting there for sure.
Excellent. And we're welcoming back Elizabeth Robuck. So welcome back, Liz. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me back.
Excellent. And for those that don't know, Liz is the Chief Product Owner for Dash Core Group. If you didn't know, now you know. So if there's any confusion there, and I wanted to get clarification with Liz before we started, because I noticed on the dash.org team page, it says like product manager, but there are other like product owners. So on the blog, you're listed as the chief product manager. So I think that sounds like the more superior title, right? Because there's other people in your team, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So we have two product owners now, Dana, who oversees Dash platform, and Brian, who oversees the front end applications from a product standpoint. Yeah.
And you're the crack in the whip, making sure they're doing the work.
I guess so. I don't think so, but maybe if you talk to them, they would tell you that.
Excellent. And you've been traveling a bit recently as well, right? Getting some culture.
Yeah, getting a little culture in the UK. Had a very nice time visiting Wales. Beautiful country. So yeah.
Excellent. Right, so let's get into it. Let's get dashy. So I want to know what you've been working on recently, because I'm guessing really the focus is on the major release last week with chain locks actually going active and live, right? But have you been working on anything else, or has that been the main focus to make sure that went live and everything was okay?
Well, that certainly has been top of mind. We've all been working very hard on our sort of various roles within that release, and are just so thrilled with how seamlessly it really went. So, that has been my primary focus, particularly when it comes to communications and making sure that the network knows what's being rolled out when and what the process looks like and all of that. In addition to that, we have quite a few other things going on right now. We've got team level roadmaps now, which is really exciting. Those have been defined at what we call the epic level. And an epic, for those who don't know, is basically just a big group of functionality. So that's really exciting. Other things I've been working on, defining kind of how we're going to articulate the value proposition of Dash platform in particular, because that concept is something that I think is not totally clear to everybody. So working on sort of defining, what it is, why we're building it, how we are positioning it in the market against other development platforms, both blockchain-based and not, and working out the pricing model for that. Other stuff, I've been working a little bit on measurement. One of the things that is very challenging about doing product management when you have such a limited amount of data about sort of user behavior, is, we don't exactly know what our usage really looks like. And so looking at some analytics solutions to try to bring more insight into, how Dash is really being used out there in the wild. So
you said the R word, you said roadmaps, and my ears went bing, because our community loves the roadmaps word. So now there's, do you say they're team roadmaps, right, for certain products? So is this like the hint that kind of like Ryan was given at saying like in the upcoming summary call, I'm presuming these will then be revealed to all?
Yes. So I think, what you'll see in the upcoming quarterly is more definition around the timing of the 1.0 release. So these roadmaps, they're intended to give sort of that high level view of all of the different epics that the teams are working on, both for MVP, for evolution, which is, we also call it 1.0, as well as sort of beyond that. So what's not necessarily absolutely critical to have on day one, that we'll plan on developing after. So yeah, I think, Ryan did, I believe, commit to sharing some timeframes for 1.0 on the next quarterly. So
exciting times. Joelle, we could go in so many directions. What do you think we should do? Should we talk about instant send and chained instant send first?
Yeah,
and
so
should we go
first,
Dash platform? There's so many directions we can go.
Oh yeah, we'll go on all of them, believe me. Ooh. Anyway, the first one, since we mentioned chain locks, it's in everyone's mind. I'd like to explore chain locks a little bit more from a product-based standpoint. Now, of course, technically, everyone thinks, oh, security, network security, 51% attacks, anti-civil, change, for secret, selfish mining, all this kind. Everyone, yeah, okay, we get that. But say you're going to an exchange. You go to an exchange, you talk to, hey, Gemini / Coinbase, you nasty rat people who have excluded Dash for so long. You're so mean. Now's the time. And they're like, okay, we got your attention. We saw enough of Stay Dashy's Twitter feed to realize that this is something big we're missing out. We're going to integrate Dash. How do you make the case? Like, how does chain locks come in as far as something that makes the product of using Dash? Like, we're presenting our product to your service to use versus Litecoin, let's just say, because that's in fact, I might have written about that today, but hey, just how does that impact more than, well, technically superior? Like, what's the practical way that this affects the Dash product in, say, the exchange environment?
Well, I think it not only drastically improves our own value proposition as the Dash network, but it also offers exchanges that sort of sense of security that we're offering users who are using Dash today. The fact that we cannot be 51% attacked is huge, because when that does happen, it not only destroys the reputation of that coin, whatever it is, it also can really hurt the exchanges as well. And so I think, explaining that in and of itself is extremely valuable. Now, I think in addition to that, the concept of chain locks combined with our new instant send system is tremendous. I don't think that the wider industry has really recognized yet the weight of having the ability to make instantly respendable payments. That brings us, in my view, up to the point where users are, that's what users expect now. If you hand me $5, I expect to be able to turn around and, hand that $5 to somebody else. I don't want to wait for all of these confirmations. And, I think that that will also make exchanges much more interested in supporting Dash, because it's just a slam dunk in terms of the user experience.
Interesting. So that's mostly because you go to the exchange and they say, well, why is this any better? And you say, look, all these exchange hacks, there's been Ethereum 51%, Ethereum Classic 51% attacked, a few different things. Instead of expensive hacks, this is just not going anywhere. You don't have to wait. You don't have to have customers like not do a trade, not take money off, not put money on, because it's just going to take too long. It's going to show up right away and you won't have to worry about it. Easy breezy, cover Dash. Right? Easy breezy, just works right away. You don't have to worry. You get more business, don't have to worry less about security. And then there you go. Is that kind of the pitch then?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I heard that there was some hesitation because it was the Spork 20 that enabled the instant send functionality with via chain locks, right?
Yeah.
So I heard that there was a little bit of hesitation because you never know if it's gonna work or not until it actually goes live, right? You can have a test environment, but it's virtual. When it goes in the real world, there's different master nodes with different text specifications, different bandwidth, different RAM, different processor speeds, etc., etc. You just don't know. So there was but like it seems to have gone flawlessly. Or are you keeping some stuff aside? Because right now it just worked from the get-go. Like there's been no problems at all.
Yeah, I mean, so I will say we did roll out a 14.0.2 release in the last day. It's non-mandatory, so it's really not something to worry about unless you are a master node that's running sort of what we call low spec hardware. So kind of what we define as the absolute minimum requirements for running a master node. Some of those folks were seeing some issues when resyncing and reindexing. So I will.
That affected regular nodes as well, right? Non-master nodes.
I thought it just affected master nodes, but I could be wrong.
It could have been a coincidence because there's a longtime friend of mine who just runs every major crypto node out there on probably low spec hardware. And he pinged me before 14.0.2 came out and said, "Hey, I'm having trouble syncing my thing." And so, yeah, now it's fixed. So it could be.
Yeah. That sounds like it was probably the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he needed to update the node to the latest version. Which
he had updated to 0.14.1 and then he had some issues. That's
right.
That's where it came from.
But as Edwards just put in the chat, you got to update. There's a new minor release update launched recently, 0.14.0.2, right? So it's not critical update though, right? It's only a minor update, but I mean, it's always best to be using the latest and greatest anyway. So if you haven't done that yet, make sure you do so.
But yeah, I mean, to your question about the activation of Spork 20, it's software. You can only be so certain that something is absolutely going to work. You really don't know for sure. But we have a fantastic team. We really do, and they have been testing away. And I think like you said. It really overall, this release has been really, really smooth, and I think we're all just really pleased.
Yeah, because it's not just like activating the spork and then that's it. From your side, and like Brian was saying, he was saying the other week that you couldn't activate just Spork 20 from the get-go. You got to make sure the iOS and Android wallet is ready to go right before you do that, and then everything's got to work in sync. So even after you activate it, anything can go wrong. But fingers crossed, touch wood, everything's been fine, and everyone's absolutely loving it. So I mean, I don't want to say bragging rights, but as Joelle was saying, like this is how Dash was always intended to function and work. Now we truly are digital cash, and just like Liz was saying, $5, it's $5. You should just be able to just give it away, give and take, just like that. So instant send, instant receive, instantly respendable. That is how Dash was meant to be, Dash Digital Cash.
Yeah. No, I think that's why I think I'm so excited about this particular release. Is I feel like we have sort of eliminated all of those barriers that kind of kept us from keeping pace, I guess, with traditional payment methods. Now we have all of the features of traditional, as you said, cash, with all of the benefits that come with a cryptocurrency. So
I do like that comparison with cash and not with cards, because cash is instantly settled. Here you go. Here's your filthy worthless paper. Now it's over. Whereas with cards, you take a couple days to actually settle, and there's chargebacks and other things. And a lot of people say they'll make it as fast as credit cards. It's like, well, Bitcoin already is as fast as credit cards in that faster, arguably, because you send it shows up right away. And then, maybe a few hours or days later, it gets like actually settled. And so it's kind of that's kind of a better comparison. So thanks for that. Now, as far as I think that for people who've been following the space for a long time, they might not understand what exactly the improvements to 51 to instant send have been, because back in the day, right, you have Darkcoin, it just does special private cool version of Bitcoin, and then you have this thing called Instant X, as it was called back in the day. And I still saw someone, actually a mastodonor just tweeted that like this week. And I was like, oh wow, you're old school. But so Instant X, it's like now everything's confirmed 1.3 seconds about. I'm like, awesome. And Dash today, transactions 1.3 seconds. It seems like no developmental progress has been made in like 5 years from just that. But there's a whole lot of difference. So let me explain instant send up until 0.14, and then you can explain what's different after that. And I kind of have some inklings of like what actually is different, but I'm honestly a little fuzzy on how that actually works. So it's not just of a I set them up, you knock them down kind of thing. I do actually want to know some things. So back in 2014, you said instant X, instant send, whatever. You check a little box on only the core full desktop wallet at that time. And then transactions were, if they had at least, 5 or 6 confirmations on chain, they could then be instant sent, which means they got sent and then they got locked, as in those inputs could not be moved at all until they got 5 or 6 on chain confirmations. And so, as extremely limited use case for an extremely limited sort of a thing, I kind of came in a little after when Dash was on the mobile wallets with instant send. And then I could say, oh, I'll instant send you some stuff. And then it shows up right away. But they couldn't move it for like 6 confirmations. Whereas if I send an unconfirmed transaction, it's not settled, but it just shows up and they could resend that. And then eventually the train would confirm. But now it would just lock it in place. And then I had some issues setting up a whole bunch of people with wallets where I start instant sending them. Look, instant send so great, like 10 people in a row. And then pretty soon I couldn't instant send anymore because all the change that kept coming back from the inputs didn't have enough confirmations to then be instant send locked. And so I ran into a whole bunch of little issues like that. But that's the way instant send used to work. Then it was version 0.13. You had 90% of transactions about automatically get instant send locked, no extra fee, and you don't have to actually check a little box, which is pretty massive. And that everything does instant send. It's cheap. You still had that weird thing back end where not everything, you needed to have enough confirmations on chain before you could instant send and before you could respend those inputs, before you could remove them after instant send. You still had to wait a little bit of time. Now we're at 0.14. What's going on now?
Yeah, so basically there were a couple of problems with the old system. And really I shouldn't say problems, and I should say obstacles to scalability. So the first one was we didn't have the deterministic masternode list, which, not to get into too techie, nerdy territory. But as a result of that, the sort of final output of the quorum decision was not necessarily deterministic. So with the implementation of long-living masternode quorums to validate instant send, that issue has been resolved. It is now the quorum signature is deterministic. In addition, long-living masternode quorum-based instant send, the new instant send, we can just call it, significantly reduces network overhead. So historically, as I think you said, you would have, when you wanted to send instant send, you would have a quorum of 10 masternodes. And basically they would have to send out messages saying, yeah, this looks good, or no, it doesn't. And each one of those masternodes would generate a signature to do that, or to, like, in a message basically to the network. And that's fine when we have a fairly small amount of those transactions happening, and as a result, not too many messages propagating all over the network. Becomes a problem when we really, we want instant send to be sort of the experience for pretty much everybody, or everybody who wants it anyway. And basically what happens is you get, as a result of that system, you could have basically 10 times the amount of messages than you really need going all over the network. And so what long living masternode quorums does is that instead of those 10 messages, it has 1, right? And so you've drastically reduced the load on the network, which reduces requirements on people's hardware and whatnot. So that's been I think a tremendous improvement on the network overall and how it operates, and opens up much more opportunity for scaling the network than the old system did. Then, of course, with version 14, in combination with chain locks, as we talked about before, you have chained instant send. So when basically you send an instant send that has already been in a block that has been chain locked or has been instant sent previously, you can create those changed transactions, and that's what makes it so that you can instantly respend a received instant send payment.
Yeah, so the experience right now is, now you're bringing it back to the moron consumer, as it were, right? Now everything is instant send. Is there a such thing as a non-instant send transaction anymore? Do you know?
Yes. Yes, there is, in a very small percentage of cases.
Do you know what kinds of things those are?
Well, it would be, let's say, an exchange that doesn't support instant send. Yeah.
Like, as far as the receiving end or the sending end?
So I believe it's either one. If they aren't able to recognize a transaction as instant send.
Okay, so then that would mean the experience is that it's not instant send, but as far as the network itself is concerned, as far as the back end, it would still, like, everything is now kind of instant send.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty epic and revolutionary that I don't think enough people kind of grasp. And I mean, I was doing private send mixing the other day because I'm always mixing, We're like when Mark used to make those Mixing Mondays memes. So I noticed that just before that, whenever I do private send mixing, I'd send rounds to each other. They'd always have to wait for confirmations. Now they just are instant, just mix, just keeps going. That's the first time I really saw kind of that, whoa, everything is different on an infrastructural type of level. So now, instead of, well, the instant send experience works with a couple of parameters, now it just zip, 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 zip. It's all like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, from the product kind of perspective, if you use the Dash wallets as products, that's a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
Now, if you use non-Dash wallets that use Dash, that might be a little bit of a hurdle to where, say, I have a Koinomi wallet, and then I send to my buddy with an Edge wallet. I say, oh yeah, he wants to use Dash, and so I'm like, all right, I only got some on my Koinomi right now for some reason. I send to him so he can go buy his coffee or whatever with it, and while he's in line, I send it to him. It just says, waiting on confirmations, and it shows up on his and just says unconfirmed, can't be spent, or whatever. He doesn't know what's going on. Obviously that's not in the direct control of anyone at Dash, but what are we going to do about this?
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I think the biggest thing, or the biggest task that we have in front of us in order to remediate that, is education. The business development and marketing teams have been hard at work creating a bunch of materials to educate partners, exchanges, et cetera, on the benefits of this most recent release Also clearing up some misconceptions about private send. I think that's the biggest thing. It's education. And I think it's working on getting the buzz out there about how great this user experience is.
So say I know a certain guy, Paul Poi, who runs the Edge wallet, and he's a good buddy of mine. And then I just say, hey, Paul, you really need to add all this new cool stuff to Dash. It's just amazing. Nothing will be the same ever again. You're all about mass adoption. This is the single best user experience out there. And he's like, all right, fine. You sold me. What do I do now? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do I tell him at that point? Because he says, I'll get my developers on it. They want to know what to do. What do I tell them to do? Where can they go to implement some kind of way of recognizing instant sends, both in the setting and receiving, so it looks just like the Dash wallet? Like, how do you hook them up to the same experience to be able to implement the same experience that's on the official wallets now?
Well, I think step one is connecting them with our biz dev team and specifically the integrations group, which I say group, it's really John.
John Kindle, baby. John Kindle all the way.
He's an army of one.
Yeah.
He really is. And it's, it's as easy as that. If there's more information that he or other folks that you talk to want to just learn more about it, I think we'll have those fairly shortly. In the meantime, obviously, we have blog posts and are happy to have conversations and whatnot to educate people on how it all works. But yeah, I would say that would be the best step.
So is there good documentation out there to where,
Yes.
I mean, obviously talking to a team member or something like that can really help. But let's just say something happens where, let's say Bill Gates says, oh, you know what? I'm done with this Ripple stuff. I think Dash is a digital cash for the world. I want everyone to use it, especially in Africa. I want it just all over the world, and everyone's scrambling. Oh, how do we, and he starts talking about chain instant. Everyone's scrambling. So now poor John, army of one, now has to fight off like 10,000 different services talking to him. How do I get this done? Obviously, he can't do it all. Is there a single place people can go to where, if they're like relatively smart, they're kind of familiar with Dash, they can just go look at the documentation, be like, and figure out how to implement that stuff onto their platform on their own without speaking to a single person?
Well, yeah, I mean, we do have we have pretty fantastic documentation on the I think it's docs.dash.org that Strophe works on every release. But I will say, if Bill Gates calls, we'll be kind of swarming on that one.
For sure.
to deal with that by himself. So.
But is this like a change in strategy? Because you're saying that you're developing materials and resources for key partners and, more importantly, exchanges as well to keep up to date. And because I imagine before, as we scale and grow and get more exchanges, more partners, it becomes a much more cumbersome process. So I guess having these resources and materials is such a massive help in itself, because these exchanges and partners are going to have their own development teams anyway, right? So as long as the documentation and resources is clear to have, my understanding is that these new resources that John Kindle in particular has been working on haven't really been made public yet. So like, I think I guess he's kind of like fine tuning, and I don't know if they will be made public though. Do you know if that's the case? Or
I don't know for sure if they'll be sort of posted anywhere necessarily. I know there's a brochure that's being worked on, and I think it's it'll be available in a digital format, so it can be shared around, no problem. I think in addition, we're going to be incorporating that language into our site as well, to sort of have a specific place where potential integration partners can go and see, okay, here's an explanation of what all these features are and what do I have to do to integrate them and whatnot.
As chief product owner, I was going to say manager then, owner, are you happy with the functionality of Dash right now in terms of the consumer side? Are you satisfied?
I mean, it's amazing. I feel so grateful that I get to work on what I think is the best quality product out there in the cryptocurrency space. I'm so thankful for that. Yeah, it's awesome. I think these latest features really, like I said, really brought us to a point where we're becoming not just, I mean, I believe that we've been innovation leaders in the cryptocurrency space since Dash was formed. And that's sort of our thing. We lead the market, but I believe that we're getting to a point where we are actually truly competitive with sort of those, more traditional payment methods. I think obviously there's still work to do. But I think that, like I said, now we have removed some of those obstacles that has historically made cryptocurrency sort of inaccessible to the average consumer. And now they can enjoy the benefits of cryptocurrency, cross-border, available anytime, instant, tiny fees, all of that. And at the convenience and level of security that they are accustomed to. So, I'm, as you can probably tell, I'm really, really excited about this most recent release. And I really can't wait for 1.0.
Yes, I'm sure we're all in the exact same boat. Now we're thinking about a product that's something that people actually want. There's so many good things out there, so many, like for example, you look at the automobile industry, there's just so many of them out there, and so many of them, they only make sense for someone to buy if they solve a need. Like, well, I like a minivan. Why is that better than a Corvette? It's not. It's just different, but the product is superiorly better for a certain consumer who wants to, say, have a certain budget, who needs to fit a whole lot of kids and a whole bunch of other stuff, but doesn't need a giant gas guzzling truck that like tears up the roads. It's like there's very specific products for very specific users. Now, as far as I'm going to do a broad categorization of users here, which is crypto users and non-crypto users. While there's plenty more within there, here's the thing. Dash is the next gen crypto. It's the best. It works great, all that kind of stuff. However, in my experience, recent experience, crypto users, cryptocurrency fans and users are more fans and investors than they are users of payment systems, so to speak. And so Dash being instant and all this kind of cool stuff doesn't really matter to a lot of them because it's all about number go up, right? All about, oh, I bought some Hodl Moon Lambo, all that kind of stuff. Where Dash does seem to shine right now in that, recently, is in how much it's better for trading, in that you can move on and off exchanges securely, instantly, and for almost no money. And the arbitrage opportunities is how much easier it is for traders, which is the number one, I would say, trader and holder, number one crypto fan type people. So in a lot of ways, Dash isn't different for them, but in some ways it is. Now, what about the average non-crypto user? And here's where we get into like the very existentialist kind of how, like who's going to use this? How are we going to get them to use this? So who is the average user for Dash outside of crypto, outside of existing crypto people? And what does this really do for them? Why do they need Dash?
So I think I want to talk first about Dash, the cryptocurrency, and then I want to talk a little bit about some of the features that are coming with Dash platform and evolution, and talk about kind of how that expands our prospective user base. So just looking at Dash's digital cash, I think obviously we, as you said, there's the sort of arbitrage opportunities for traders, and the ability to move around money very, very quickly is something that's very appealing to people who are, especially like day traders, who are just constantly trying to beat the market. So certainly that's one user group. I think obviously another important user group that we're seeing are people who live in places in the world where they cannot rely on their local currency as a good form of payment. And so, I think, and my hope is that we will continue to expand our presence in places like Venezuela. I think another important advantage to call out about Dash over not just other cryptocurrencies, but over other payment methods in general is one, obviously the fees. We have extremely low fees. And two is the cross-border opportunity. Being able to move money across borders that fast and that cheaply is huge. So, I think my thoughts on digital cash will continue to expand in, and of course, how could I forget, cash-based businesses. I mean, obviously, cannabis businesses, other cash-based businesses, Dash has a real value proposition to them. I think beyond Dash as digital cash, we're going to see tons of opportunities open up with Dash platform. So many, in fact, that it's almost hard to sort of figure out what should we go after, because we will essentially have this powerful development platform that allows application developers and businesses to use our blockchain as essentially a cloud database as a service, or as some people like to call it, a blockchain as a service. And you can build any number of different types of applications using that. Some great examples are, when we talk about a lot of supply chain, right? So provenance. So, that could be anything from food provenance to pharmaceuticals, other health products, I think is a great one. Seed to sale for cannabis. I mean, there's endless opportunities in that space for these very complicated supply chains, especially the ones that have a lot of different players, especially the ones that extend across multiple borders and are subject to different jurisdictions. Having the ability to trace products across a blockchain would be enormously valuable. And that's just one. I think there's other opportunities. I think there's opportunities in the public sector. I think, I mean, it opens up so many possibilities. So.
Well, everyone is always waiting and anticipation, which is typically on a Thursday when we get the blog.dash weekly update on developments. I don't always understand what they mean. We see things about like Dash J and all this sort of stuff, and we're like, what the hell is that? But it's great to see that things are happening.
And no, Dash J doesn't have anything to do with Alt36.
No. Actually, John Kindle did explain it to me once. It was to do with JavaScript. I think we were talking about, actually, that was to do with a partner, so maybe I shouldn't talk about that. But so these updates are really great, and we really appreciate these weekly updates you're doing. So we kind of spoke about like where we are up until present day. I want to talk about the future and make the most of the opportunity that we've got you here. I know that you're buzzing for Dash platform, but you said to me before we start on the podcast, you still don't think people truly understand what it is, or there may be some misconceptions, or maybe there's been some developments on your side. So is there anything you can share with us about Dash platform, and just give us a bit more clarity on what it is, or things that you think we should be aware of as a community?
Absolutely. How long do you have?
Well, 45 minutes?
Well, I don't want to, I'll speak to it to the best I can. Dana Alibrandi is our product owner of our Dash platform, and so he's the guy in the details. But I'll give you sort of the overall pitch if that's helpful, and then feel free to ask questions. So, Dash platform, it evolved out of, if you think back to, if people are familiar with op return. Op return was basically a way for data to get added to the blockchain in kind of a like non-financial data. But it was really never intended to be used for that purpose. Then, of course, we saw Ethereum sort of sprout out of that and the problems that people were seeing with op return and using the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain in that way. Ethereum's wonderful and has many advantages, but it's got issues of its own. The network gets congested. Developers have to know Solidity or learn it in order to build applications on Dash platform. And on Ethereum. And so Dash platform is basically, like I said, the best way that I can describe it is it's, at least in its initial launch, the vision for it is much larger, but in its initial launch, it essentially functions like a distributed cloud database as a service, or like I said, another term we use is a blockchain as a service. And so one of the great features about it from a developer standpoint is that it is based on sort of common internet standards. Developers can build applications on it using languages they know instead of having to learn Solidity. So that's very helpful. And basically what it does on a high level is it allows for auditable, immutable record keeping. Obviously, it is secured and hosted by the Dash Masternode network, and it's also going to benefit from the blockchain user network. Basically, that will function as what we sort of call local network identity management. So if you think about sort of just the internet, it will have kind of something similar to what domain names brought to the internet, right?
Exciting times.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of Namecoin back in the day.
Yeah, we could do with that right about now, with Facebook going down, WhatsApp, Instagram. We could do with a internet 3.0.
So would this be the sort of thing when you think about, because obviously recent episodes with networks going down, would it be the sort of thing where if you start running Dashbook or whatever, a Facebook clone off of Dash type thing, that then it won't go down? Maybe, that's obviously a very complicated back end to that simple question, but what do you think?
Yes, I would say one of the many benefits that Dash platform offers over centralized services is the durability, right? Because it is leveraging the masternode network rather than a centralized system that could go down.
So I'm guessing that's the limitation within the masternode hardware to be able to facilitate that, right? So
exactly.
So we'll have to scale as long as the ecosystem builds and grows, that the masternode network will have to reciprocate and be able to facilitate that. But it wasn't just services and stuff that went down. Cloudflare went down. I think like half the internet went down the other day as well, right?
Yeah,
I know we were slightly affected by that as well. So
did Kim Kardashian post another picture because something broke the internet?
Or maybe Evan posted. I think that's what happened. We'll keep that on the down low though. I'm glad that you mentioned about developers though, because before the podcast started, I did get pinged over a couple questions, and you mentioned Ethereum. So I think this is the right time to mention that question, which was, how will Dash attract more app developers compared to other platforms? And then they mentioned specifically Ethereum and EOS. So you mentioned like Ethereum, but like, have you got a strategy? Like how, because like you need developers to build on this. So is your personal focus shifting from consumers now to developers? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
It's a balance. You know, we have products that are very much user and business focused, and then we have Dash Platform, which is a little bit more focused on, I would still say businesses, but also developers. So, you know, I think definitely developer education and engagement are very much a priority for us right now. So, you know, I know that the marketing team has been working on plans for kind of what that strategy looks like for targeting developers and trying to get them to build on the platform. You know, I think, like I said, I think that this advantage that we have of a platform that can be built on using familiar languages like JavaScript is going to be huge. You know, I mean, even Facebook's Libra requires you to learn a new language to build on it, and you know, it's very hard to reach sort of average developers by asking them to invest a bunch of time in learning a new language before they can even build something on your platform. With Dash Platform, you'll be able to actually just build your app in whatever language, and you already know. You know, I think it'll be much more seamless. But like I said, you know, I think there also needs to be a balance of we know that we can't just build it and they will come. And this is why the marketing team is working hard on kind of identifying some kind of hubs for development and trying to facilitate some developer engagement in those cities.
Do you think that the Dash platform has enough unique selling, like enough of a value proposition for developers wanting to select Dash rather than build on other networks? Do you think we're unique enough? Like, what's our special use case? Like, what makes us better than other solutions?
Well, you know, I think it's a couple things. You know, in addition to the whole language benefit, we have essentially a blockchain-based development platform with a native cryptocurrency that is native to our network. And so, sure, supply chain applications can be built on blockchain or our blockchain using Dash Platform, which I think is an excellent use case. But in addition to that, it will be much more seamless for developers to build applications that leverage both the capabilities of Dash Platform as well as Dash the cryptocurrency.
So it's like a 2-to-1 kind of a thing of like, why does anyone really need Dash above anything else? Well, fantastic money, a bunch of stuff, but also you get access to like, you sort of like Facebook Coin, Libra being supposedly their internal thing to where you get in their system, you can do all kinds of stuff. It's like the Dash currency gets you into the Dash platform. It's like, well, why build on Dash platform? Well, super great scalable network, super cheap, all this kind of stuff. You can use your own programming language, and you just plug right into this super cool money that everyone's using over here. So it's kind of like those two things. Now, as far as
user base that we already have. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now we talk about Ethereum for a second, because Ethereum's like, as far as platforms, when you think about platforms, we think about Dash as a currency, the big competitors come to mind would be Bitcoin, possibly Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash kind of thing, and then Cash, Venmo, PayPal kind of thingy. Mm-hmm. And you talk about the platform, big thing, Ethereum, EOS. So Ethereum, first off, Ethereum, you had to learn Solidity to code on that. You don't have to do that with Dash. And serious scaling problems. And of course, the third bit is then you have to have like gas and a whole bunch of other stuff, a whole bunch of Ethereum stuff just to run things. Right. So despite that, Ethereum has a way bigger development community than Dash, and I would say probably will be for a little bit of time, despite all these headaches. So how do you think that's going to be actually communicated well enough to actually get a whole bunch of developers? Because if you think inferior product, superior product, all things being equal, way more developers on the superior side. So it's not the case right now. Of course, Dash platform also isn't out, but how can we get everyone, how can we at least even it out so that then we have that even playing field and where the true star gets to shine?
Well, I think we can learn from what Ethereum did in many ways, in addition to effectively articulate the value proposition that we have over other development platforms that a developer could build on. One of the things that I think Ethereum did well is they appeal to developers by allowing them to dive right in and start playing with stuff. They have all these tools that allow developers to just get started and try stuff, which is what developers like to do. They like to experiment. They like to get their hands dirty and start building. And so I think we can learn from that. And I know that Dana and the rest of the Dash platform team have been coming up with all sorts of creative ideas for how we can give that opportunity to developers so that they can, get their feet wet right away and really experiment with the software. So. And then I think it's, like I said, it's education. I think that's going to be really critical. I think the more that we and the rest of the community can try and facilitate meetups, particularly in sort of, major tech hubs all over the world, the more we can do that, the more we'll see that developer engagement grow over time.
So it's kind of like we're going after the consumers based on ease of use and user friendliness. But with developers, it's also our value proposition is ease of use and the tools. I mean, when we talk about Dash platform, there is the Dash Drive and the Dash DAppy. And it's these tools that are really going to make their lives much easier and give them much more options to go beyond, because this is like a blank canvas. It's like what you make of it, which is what makes it so exciting. And I agree with you. I think we could have the most user-friendly use case for developers, but unless you've got those videos, materials, and sources to engage and let them know that we exist, they're not going to come to build on it. So I think that's the focus point right now, is that why we're getting ready to launch Dash platform. Yeah, we need to start building up the artillery and focusing on, like, what do developers want? Like, what do they want to see? Like, do they want to see the videos? Is it just the documentation? And what is possible? Because Dash's advantage is its masternode second layer, right? Well, in fact, if you think about DAppy and everything else, Dash platform, it's now kind of like 3 layers. If you think about it, that's how it really is. But like you can
3-layer bean dip.
Yeah, so you can utilize the Dash Drive, which is going to open up all kinds of possibilities that I don't think are really possible on EOS and Ethereum to the same extent, because we can scale with that as well as needed. But the DAppy as well, I think that's the real powerful thing. And who remembers what API stands for? I know we had this on the podcast last time. So as I was saying DAppy, I thought I better say. So those that don't know, so DAppy stands for Decentralized Application Programming Interface, and it's going to make our lives so much easier for developers. It's almost going to be plug and play, right? And I know Joshua was on before talking about like schemas, which will be like templates for developers to build on. And as more people get involved, I guess they can upload templates to schemas, so you can build apps even faster and faster and faster. So you gaming developers out there, you're not going to need to specifically have to learn like new coding programming languages. It's all going to be like transferable, right? So this is the amazing potential. Sorry, Liz.
No,
It's like this is we're so close now to Dash platform, and with the first half of the podcast we're just talking about Dash now finally being able to be used as digital cash. Like now it's in its like final form, but the Dash platform, we're just talking about the internet and everything else. This is the next level, and I almost feel like timing wise, even in terms of like the public eyes and the mainstream that aren't always in tune, like tech wise, the services they rely on a day-to-day service, even the internet itself is running into issues. So even if they're not privacy focused, the raw limited unlimited possibilities with the Dash platform should be like getting every junior developer, but even the most experienced developer, as I always say, hashtag proper moist. I know when people don't like that, but that's what it is, because that's what it is. Like, this is like a kid in a sweet shop, right? Because you can build onto it and you can actually transfer other skill sets. If you used to build apps on Android or iOS, like you can transfer those skills, but you can utilize the Dash infrastructure to make that a real possibility. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now because I'm waffling. But like, am I missing out on anything? Because it's really the Dash drive and the DAppy. Because even people that are developing like dApps and stuff in blockchain, they're not necessarily going to be aware of the Dash infrastructure on the back end that makes all this possible. So how do we communicate that?
Yeah, no, you're 100% spot on. I think, I'm really excited at the point that we're at. And I think, as you said, the platform is being built in such a way that allows for that growth. I think one of the things that will be really key is reference applications. Once the schemas are available, I'm hoping that we'll see developers just dive in and see what they can build and create some open source reference dApps, so that more developers can go, oh wow, I didn't know that was possible on the Dash network, and build something even cooler, and on and on. So
yeah, so obviously we know there's a lot of different cool things we could build off of this, but as far as the possibilities, what's your personal favorite? Like, my personal favorite may be, as I've mentioned before, like a Dash book or something, some kind of a social media and messaging platform that's all built on the Dash platform and allows you to send money back and forth, kind of like the way Facebook tries to do today. But hey, Facebook's like a poor comparison. So like a Dash book is kind of like the first thing that comes to my mind of something that's like really cool. It could be built. What's the thing that you're most looking forward to? The most hypothetically, the thing you're thinking about, like, oh, I would just love that.
Well, my thoughts on it are, or my favorite use cases are probably not that sexy, but I get really excited about the supply chain applications. We talked a little bit about that before. I think I actually, in another life, worked in healthcare, and I've sort of observed that industry evolve after I stepped away from it. And there's just such a tremendous lack of transparency when it comes to the origin and provenance of health products. And now there are all kinds of health products being sold online, and you have absolutely no idea if they are of an appropriate quality, if they're even safe. And so I get pretty excited about supply chain, especially these really sort of muddy, complicated supply chains that span multiple borders, and are historically have just been very difficult to track products along. I think some of the other ones that I think are very interesting are sensitive data record keeping. So, for instance, healthcare records could be tracked on our blockchain using Dash platform. We would, of course, an application that did that would need to encrypt that data to make it HIPAA compliant and whatnot. But I think that's actually a really interesting one too, especially as I see consumers of healthcare moving towards wanting ownership over their own health data. How frustrating is it to go to a specialist and sign in and not have not have your records readily available. Especially for, now I'm going down a rabbit hole, but especially for chronic health conditions that are very complicated and require people to see multiple types of doctors. Other things I think are really interesting, identity and claim validation type use cases, checking to see if somebody has the right credentials for whatever without forcing the individual to hand over a bunch of personal information that entity that is collecting it really doesn't need to have. As a consumer, and I think, you mentioned some consumers aren't really concerned with privacy, but I really feel like we're starting to see a change, a systematic change in attitudes towards protecting personal privacy and not letting your personal data just be shared with these so-called trusted third parties. So I think that's exciting. And then, some of the public sector use cases I think are interesting. Land title tracking, voting, that type of stuff.
The data privacy thing is very interesting because for me, it was one of those. I grew up in the middle of nowhere on a cattle ranch in Mexico, partially because my dad's a cattle rancher and partly because my mom is one of those like old school privacy freaks, doesn't want the government in your business, and don't give them the mark of the beast, don't give them your numbers, don't put in it, like that whole like attitude. And that used to be like a paranoid kind of prepper attitude of like, oh, they don't protect your privacy and your information. No one cared. And then something happened, and I don't know if this is the proper place to give the credit. I think Edward Snowden was the first part of like that shift of privacy into the mainstream eye, to where now people start to view it as, well, it's cool. Like when I was a year or so ago, CNN came down and did a little film with film crew and like filmed me running around and spinning Dash around here in Portsmouth. And when I was texting the reporter, I noticed, because I use Signal, and I noticed I had like the double check marks when I was texting her, because like, oh, she uses Signal too, because like all the reporters now use encrypted messaging for exactly the same thing. It starts to become like, I mean, if even it gets to the CNN level, it's got to be taking on some kind of a mass sort of appeal. And then I'm seeing like over time, more and more people, like ad blocker used to be my like weird like hacker man friend would do like the ad. Now it's just random people have ad blockers, and random large sites say, if you're using an ad blocker, this and that. It's like now you're starting to see failures in the larger financial applications where you see these negative effects of privacy. It's just like Dash is more secure than, say, pay Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash. Let's just put those two right there. Oh, it's so much more secure because like the transaction's not going to be double spent and you can't be 51% attacked. All right. But it doesn't really, no one really knows until something goes horribly wrong. It's one of those things where everyone's like, oh, yeah, secure, I'm going to pay for security, whatever. And then as soon as you get the network attacked, as soon as all of a sudden, people go to all those Bitcoin ATMs, start double spending and just stealing from all of them. That's when you start to see some issues. And the same thing with privacy apps like Venmo. I don't know how anyone uses Venmo, because the amount of nonsense that they've done, not only have they've leaked all your purchases like to the whole public just generally, and I had another thing where it's just on by default, you just like track everything, and you have MasterCard and Google have this data sharing scheme partnership where Google tracks everything you buy, and then they share it with MasterCard that when you swipe everything you buy there, so they just know everything you're doing, and they advertise to you based on everything. And people are starting to get freaked out by that now. Everyone, it's like in the common like Twitterverse, as it were, and people are tweeting about like, hey, I was talking about, with this fluffy pony character, and before you know it, all of a sudden I get ads for like little fluffy stuffed pony dolls. I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? And I think that if you had some clever advertisement kind of videos of where you have someone, you have like the random person versus the woke person, and then the random person just starts talking about stuff, and then so like for example, this happened with Venmo recently, where a woman was going through a divorce, or she was paying a divorce attorney, and it accidentally sent emails for the receipt to some of her friends, and they had no idea that this was happening in her life, and that's how they found is, oh, oops, data got leaked. It just, I mean, that's horrific and tragic, especially since it's real. But it'd be funny to do like a fictional bit where it's just like, whoops, this thing happened, or people know you're this, and just all in your business. You're talking, Alexa just like knows everything about you. And then there's the other person, the woke person, who's just using everything on the Dash platform. Everything works, and just discretion. What happens on Dash platform stays on Dash platform.
I love it.
You know what I want to see, Liz? So everyone's excited, and they're all talking about dApps. And some people have been like envisioning like, oh, well, maybe we'll have like a website, like a dApps marketplace, and then they could all be listed there. I'm thinking like beyond that. I'm thinking, what if we could utilize the Dash platform and Dash masternodes to have our own internet? Imagine if we partnered with someone like Brave Browser, but they took that UI and UX and put it on the Dash blockchain, and then services can then build within that internet infrastructure. You think now most services are online, like Netflix, everything else. So imagine if we've got our own internet that we're supporting, and then people can create their own, websites, services, platforms within that. That's going to be so powerful. And then, of course, once again, it's transferable. You can bring that in, and it's immutable, and it's censorship resistant. It's everything that you want. The only limitation right now is the masternode network with the Dash drive. So we've got to get to that for that stage. But I mean, that opens up a whole new playing field. And then of course, that's going to attract people from all spectrums of life, right? So that's what I want to see us get there. And I mentioned Brave because I've noticed, it wasn't just because it was a recent announcement with being able to withdraw and deposit Dash, but it seems that a lot of people are using that and talking about the BAT token. It's kind of like, well, look, there's problems with the internet right now, and we're talking about privacy. That issue keeps coming up from people from all walks of life. Let's have our own decentralized internet, so we don't have to worry about these centralized authorities that can monopolize it and control our data, and also the dependency of those bottlenecks, as we've seen recently when things go wrong. Let's create our own area, and people will be like, wow, it's not just building dApps. These guys have got their own decentralized internet, and cool, guess what? Not only can I build like my own website on it, I can build my own services, platform, dApps within that infrastructure. That's the next level. That's the mind-blowing thing that people haven't foreseen yet. So
and it all runs using the most widely used magic internet money in the world. It's all there.
Well, yeah, and this is one of the problems with some of the other projects. Steemit, I think it's got something close to like 3 million users. Now, the problem with Steemit is, I think a lot of people complain about the initial distribution. I'm not an expert on that, but the problem is Steemit as a currency can't be used as like real money because there aren't many merchants accepting it. It's difficult. You've got to go to exchanges, switch it up. The advantage with Dash is it is digital cash. It actually functions as digital cash. So this is going to be such a game changer, providing we can attract the right talent, developer talent, but also as well, it's being smart with how we launched the first dApp, the Dash Pay dApp, right? Because although we've got our own ecosystem and internal community right now, the real challenge is launching that app successfully as a fintech application, but encouraging mainstream users and adopters to actually download that app, create Dash Pay usernames, and that's the real challenge. So it was like you were saying earlier, it's a balancing act, right, between developers and I don't want to say consumers, but because I like to think of people being unbanked and taking back control. But I'm just going to say Dash Pay app users and developers building on the Dash platform. So like, I'm guessing, Liz, that although like Dana seems to be doing a lot of the blockchain, like hackathons and developer stuff. So hopefully we can get him on the podcast. I'm guessing like you've been so involved with the Dash Pay dApp itself. You're looking at the workflows of like how we can onboard people. How are we gonna how are we going to engage people to set up Dash Pay usernames and make it simple, straightforward, and get over that barrier, right?
Yes.
Barrier to entry.
So that's exactly where I was going to go. Seeing was we're getting past the 1 hour mark. We're getting a little close. I did kind of want to sprint into the final bit because we talked before about like who are the kind of users who needs to use Dash. We're talking about, well, people do it, remittances, cross border, those kinds of things. Now that's a very high level thing. And then there's obviously the reality does not exist yet of people using this to great. And we're trying to go in the in between. So we say to someone, hey, use Dash. It's fantastic. You have usernames. How are you going to get a random person off the street? We're talking today because version 1 is going to be out tomorrow-ish, like soon enough, very soon. The average consumer will not be very different from that. You have the average, say, let's just take young tech entrepreneur, like young entrepreneur type, who's kind of into tech, but he's not whatever. Doesn't use crypto really right now. That guy, someone like that. And you say, you're going to use, like, you come to him, say, hey, you got to use this stuff. Okay, so first off, how does that person get onboarded with a username?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are really focused on with respect to Dash Pay is facilitating sort of that organic growth out of existing Dash users. Because I believe a large part of the growth is going to happen that way by you and Mark and other members of the community saying to your friends and family and whoever, hey, have you tried Dash Pay? So we have been working really hard. And by the way, you should also have Brian on the podcast as well to talk specifically more about the wallets. But we have been working very hard on making the experience of inviting a user as seamless as possible, particularly for the invitee. So as an invitee, if I get an invitation to download Dash Pay and set up my username, the first thing is I want as few steps as possible. You make this complicated for me, I'm gone, right? That's the average user who is sort of maybe mildly or moderately interested. We want to make sure that user has the ability to immediately take some actions to immediately increase engagement within that app right from the get-go. So that's sort of number one goal. I think a second goal is I think that you will see with Dash Pay that it is a lot more human, a lot more friendly, even a little bit more sort of playful than a lot of other crypto and fintech apps that you see out there. Our thinking is, we want to create an experience that is sort of visually engaging, gives people a reason to want to engage beyond just sort of the transactional stuff. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of animations, there's even a little bit of experimentation with gamification going on in some aspects to really sort of give users as engaging an experience as possible. One of the things that I think about crypto networks that, or it's sort of just a thought I've had is, I feel like they are sort of this intersection of social networks with fintech, right? Yes, we have a cryptocurrency. Yes, it's used for payments, but we are also kind of a social network because we are, we're peer-to-peer. We're always talking on Discord with each other. And so I think, there are things that we need to borrow from both spaces to really make this a familiar experience. And so I hope that you guys will be pleased with what you see for the first version, and from there, we'll gather feedback and adapt.
Let me talk about some parts of the product that might not be super, that might not be instantly apparent from someone trying to use it. Just someone testing out the app in a vacuum. Where you're like, oh, like look at the user flows. Like you send money here and there. First off, the average person, say I have my, my friend, coworker, whatever. Well, we know my coworker, but some friend, I set him up with a username. He opens up this, he downloads this app, and it just says, enter your invite code or whatever. You go beep, 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 and it says, fantastic, you're all set to go. Enter your, Tangy Tangerine is your username or whatever, and then you put in, say, some sort of a backup. First off, is it going to be a seed backup for that, or is there going to be something else?
It will be a seed backup, but we are, that's going to be a step that you don't have to do right away.
So if they have their username and password, though, they essentially don't necessarily need a backup unless they forget their password, type of a thing, right?
Right. Unless they forget the password, lose their device, whatever.
Yes, of course, or it's compromised. And by the way, can this password be changed at a later time? Like they can change it as much as they want, and it still just gets them right in.
Yeah, and it's a PIN. Yeah.
All right, so they got their username and PIN, and then they're in. All right, yay, fantastic. What do I do now? Okay, so then me being the generous person I am, I spend them like 10, 20 bucks worth of Dash. Now they're a Dash user, kind of. But first off, like, what do they use? What do they spend it on? Well, hopefully there's a bunch of merchants around online they could spend it on. Maybe some gift card stuff. So it's a little like two-step process here. Not quite ideal, but say you go down, say you live here at Portsmouth, you can go spend it. You can go downtown, buy coffee with it or whatever. Oh, but then he spends all his Dash. And then now what? How does he get more? And more importantly, how does he get more in a way that it's worth the trouble and the fee to get more, and then you can convince the end business that whole thing is worth it. So now we have in a vacuum, DashPay app sounds fantastic. In the context of the real world, and you're saying, well, who does it work for? For example, you have an immigrant here who's trying to send money back home. And it's like, well, it's so easy to send it across, but it's difficult for them to get it, confusing for them to get it, expensive possibly for them to get it. Then they somehow figure out how to send to Abuelita down south, who, I don't know how she is, but she uses Dash Text, fine. She has a little mobile phone. It's a way easier. She gets it. Now what can she do with it? She doesn't have money. Even though they sent money, they didn't send money in their eyes because they can't quite use it like that. So how do we get from that high level conceptual, good for remittances, good for gaming, good for this, good for that? These users are our typical users. How do we get from that idea of them to the world they're in, to just now they're living in a Dashy world?
Living in a Dashy world. I love it. So I think there's a couple of things in what you said. I think, one is obviously we need on and off ramps with fiat. We just do. And so, I think we've heard some pretty positive feedback on the Uphold integration with the Android wallet. And, I think while an exchange integration may not make it into MVP for Dash Pay, because we're really just trying to get a product out the door as quickly as possible. It will be certainly something that we plan to implement so that people can easily exchange Dash for their local currency as needed and buy it with their local currency as they want to. So I think that's one important goal. A second is, as I mentioned, we are really trying to design Dash Pay with a goal of getting users to interact within the app. And I don't just mean by sending transactions. I mean in social ways, customizing their experience within the app. Ultimately, I think, some other ideas for future features would be, potentially we could do messaging within the app, those types of things to really try to increase engagement in other ways. I think on day one of the release of Dash Pay, are we gonna see worldwide adoption? Probably not. But I do think that that we're sort of we're trying to build an application that not only is well suited to kind of that organic growth, but also will serve as a reference app for other application developers that want to build similar things.
I think that's the real power fit here, and this is the thing that we really need to communicate, because the whole blockchain username, it goes beyond the Dash Pay DApp, right? This isn't just like downloading a wallet from the App Store. You're creating a user profile. Dash Pay username, think of it as a profile. You're going to have a profile picture. You're going to have your contact list. It's not just going to be, so if you create that within the Dash Pay DApp, fantastic. But just remember that that profile is going to be transferable elsewhere to other solutions. And just like I was saying before, whether it's dApps or a decentralized internet, just like how you use the internet now to provide online services, and you have like a login verification, say like, with Facebook, or login with or via Google or Facebook or Twitter with those credentials, this could be different. You're going to be utilizing your Dash Pay username. So it's not just the ease of use of having just a username and a password and a contact list and a profile, which is much easier than the legacy type of wallets that we've seen, where you've got long, addresses, and it just seems to be cumbersome, and it's not really fit for mainstream use. It's not user friendly enough. This actually helps us get to the stage where it works without you having to question how it works behind the scenes, and it opens up new doors. So the Dash Pay DApp, yes, it is the first, but creating that profile, that Dash Pay username profile, don't think of it as a wallet, don't think of it just address, the username, the contact list, everything else, not just your pretty picture face as well that you can put with it. Whether it's messaging apps, whether it's dApps and stuff in the future, people are going to be able to plug in and use those Dash Pay usernames to bring that in. That's the ecosystem. You have to understand like the bigger picture and what's just going to be possible to be made with this. And you can't do this with other cryptocurrencies right now. And this is why it's so exciting for me, because it's people have always got ideas, but they haven't got the foundation to make them a reality. And they're just up in the ether. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we can do this? Well, now there is no excuses. Even if you had the fantastic idea that even breached the limitations of what the masternode network could handle and facilitate in terms of the Dash drive, you can still get to work on developing that solution. And if there's enough willpower and developing there, whether it's, the social media network, the Dashbook that Joelle was saying, well, what do you think you're going to log in with that? Your Dash Pay username, right? This is the penny drop moment where the light bulb goes off. It's transferable, and it's game changing. So it's not just going to be users creating user profiles in the future. It's going to be fintech companies. It's going to be the FTSE 100 if in the UK. It's going to be the Dow Jones. It's going to be everyone. People are going. If you're running a business, you're going to be probably hosting your website on the future on a decentralized internet. And then if it's really popular and you've got a big audience, you're probably going to have a DApp too. And guess what? You're going to log into that and verify a Dash Pay username profile. So this is what we need to hit out the park, and we need to communicate and get into people's brains.
Okay, as we start wrapping this up, I got some homework, right? These are the key elements of the Dash account system that will make this thing go nuts. First off, obviously having an easy username set up for the Dash, all the Dash wallets, all the actual, where you spend Dash. Oh, you got the login, the Android wallet here. I got the login, the core wallet here. I got a web wallet. That's all fine and good. Next thing, what you need to do is have exchanges, have at least one key exchange to where you can log into the exchange. And of course, AML KYC exchanges might be a little different. So maybe something that doesn't do that yet, to where, you know, just as purely crypto exchange,
a
you log in.
decentralized DApp? Is that what you're proposing? Is that like your killer app?
Yes. So you log in, you start getting exchanges to implement the username system. So now it's like the one login kind of does for that. Now, the killer thing I think is going to be is connecting to your social networks, your old school social networks, right? Your Twitters and your Facebooks and whatever nonsense. Connecting to them the way Keybase does to verify that that's your identity. Except, you know, Keybase already is like a ton of what I envision happening, but let's just take it to the next level. And more importantly, have auto Dash blockchain backups of your social media profiles, because people are terrified of getting deplatformed, their thing shut down, whatever. And so say you're an especially salty tweeter and you just love to say all kinds of edgy stuff. If you not only have your Dash username connected to that account to where it just says, oh yeah, that's it's like hashtag verified, but verified through Dash, not through, you know, Jack. But it also backs up your tweets as you do them. So if someone decides to just destroy your whole record of existence, you get that automatic on blockchain backup for those things. Mm-hmm. That's going to be huge for people to do, that they have that whole thing. They can actually use their verification system and then back up all these different kinds of accounts and things like that. And especially the the immutable backup thing is going to be an intense kind of thing like that. I think people are really going to like that. Mm-hmm. And you just get that social bit together. Aircoins is going to have a Dash login. Even for collecting the non-Dash coins, you log in with your Dash username. Mm-hmm. You got to get that. Other things like, say, Pokemon Go or whatever, your Yelp reviewer thing, it's all the same thing in case Yelp decides to delete your reviews because, again, you were too salty. So Dash is going to cater towards a lot of very salty people, probably in the beginning, because just whatever people want to censor those kinds of things. And just kind of taking that username where it's like, this is my little castle here, is my little username. I talk to my friends with it, the messaging, and then I can send money just around the friends, little bits of money. But no, it's like play money. It's not real. Well, who knows how fast Dash catches on as a currency. But you do that, and you start to like connect everything to that, like octopus tendrils. They start reaching out, and now they got over this and over that. And then before you know it, you're running everything off of Dash. You're backing up Twitter off of Dash. And then at some point, you're going to have, Dash Twitter that's going to run parallel. And as part of that, you could have a script or something running that automatically posts from free Twitter to slave Twitter, as it were, other Jack's Twitter. Mm-hmm. And so every time you tweet immutably, it does that. And if your account gets banned or whatever over there, you've been running these sort of dual lives in parallel. And eventually people are just going to start using the thing that they don't have problems with.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And actually, what you described, we have a reference DApp in development, Memo Dash, that's very similar to what you described.
Mm-hmm. Memo.dash.
Exciting times. I know I was teasing about this before. And so if you are listening, this is just an idea. I don't know if Dash Core Group are doing it. But when we're looking at incentives and value proposition, when we think about when people sign up to services, it's like what they get in return. A lot of people create a Google account because you get a Google Drive account, and then you can store stuff on there, right? Or, there's Dropbox, OneDrive with Microsoft, all kinds of things. Imagine if Dash was able to say, hey, if you come to Dash and you set up a Dash Pay account, you get 5 gigabytes for your space. And as we scale, we can offer 10 gigabytes, 20 gigabytes. And although you may think, oh, that's not very much, think about it. It's decentralized and it's in your control because it's under your account. Our good friend Omar from Cryptos News, he had his personal Facebook account deleted, and he lost all those photos he had over years, decades, right? That he set
his whole life,
family stuff. Yeah, and the thing is, he always thought he owned those pictures, but when you sign those terms and conditions with that Facebook account, you're signing them over and that you actually don't have them. So imagine actually where you have your own profile account and you've got your photos or even potentially documents uploaded to your own drive. and you don't have to worry about Google or Facebook or being deplatformed for one of these social media networks, because you can tie into that as well. So I think in the future, I would love for that to be explored. Obviously, the masternode network hardware infrastructure would need a serious upgrade, and would need to definitely up the hardware drive requirements on that. But this is the raw potential that we've got now. So when people got excited about Facebook and Libra, like, oh my God, it can do this stuff, I'm just like, that's just a fraction of what the Dash platform can do. Yeah. I'm just trying to limit myself in just saying things that I can do, because I know if I start going too crazy, it's going to be too far ahead, and I know we've got to take baby steps first. But I think people need to understand the bigger picture of the raw unlimited possibilities that can be done. So this is the time right now being in it. Like, someone tweeted at me earlier saying, but Litecoin, it's just got all these integrations, which was kind of more of a Dash Investment Foundation relation thing. But I'm just saying, yeah, but this is the greatest time to be about. Like, I'm taking advantage of the current market situation with Dash right now. We know Dash platform is coming. We know Dash, the Dash Pay DApp is coming. So I'm not down in the dumps. I'm very open. I've said not too long ago that I was exchanging my precious metals holdings to acquire more Dash, and just selling anything left, right, and center, comic books that I can get hold of, because I'm not sure if we'll get this opportunity again. I know that gets thrown about a lot, but this is clearly going to happen. The Dash Pay DApp is going to happen. Dash platform's going to happen. We've only really got a short window. The summary call is coming in August, right, where we should be learning about the roadmaps. Ryan says he was going to show the flyer, which gave the breakdown of how Dash and private send shouldn't be treated any different from a regulation standpoint to Bitcoin. That's going to be a bit of a game changer. I understand on the front page, Ryan's got his soundbite on that. On the back, there's a development angle as well. Like, Dash has got a lot going for it right now, and the barriers that other cryptocurrencies have, Dash is just smashing through them. The only difference is, and the sad thing is, most people don't know about it right now. But if you're watching this, you do, and that's why I'm taking advantage of the situation as much as I can. Yeah, so like, although people say you should spend all, not just hold all, but like right now, I think don't get upset about the market situation. See it as opportunity, and don't go taking credit cards and doing like crazy things. Be sensible and get yourself debt ridden. But absolutely not. But dollar cost average, right? Obviously I get paid. I get paid in Dash, right from the blockchain. Well, however, I can sell things on eBay for fiat, etc., and switch that up. So I'm actually taking advantage of every situation I can right now, because I don't know if I'm going to get this chance again.
Well, yeah, that's the exact thing we're pointing out. Obviously, everyone has their own decisions they make in terms of investments and stuff like that. The one thing that's becoming very clear is that the market currently values some absolute weird stuff very highly. Like, of course, Litecoin's a big thing, and I actually just wrote about Litecoin today because recently Dash's transactions and active addresses have significantly surpassed Litecoin's in a slow trend. And what you're looking at over the last couple of years actually is Litecoin's been relatively, and this is just a comparison metric, and there's no need to dogpound Litecoin. They don't need the help. So has been relatively flat, and then Dashes were way down here. And in fact, it's pretty sad looking back when like 5,000 to 8,000 daily transactions of Dash back in the day. I'm like, oh no. But it's been going up and up and up. Dash is growing and growing and growing, and it's started to flip in Litecoin now with all those terms. And if you look at the actual statistics for transactions, it looks like Dash is much more likely to be used for real world purchases. There's just so much development going on Dash, so many awesome things, so many things that aren't going on the, say, Litecoin or other things like that. Yet you see the market and the attention. It's just, at some point, something's got to give, right? At some point, and that's the thing is, this is a very speculative space. People are putting a lot of money towards things that they just think is going to be used someday. And at some point you run out of speculation. At some point you have to have something. At some point there have to be a fulfillment on that speculation. And so when you see constant growth on one end, and then you in the long-term metrics, but then you see short-term metrics, at some point either the whole thing's going to fall out or there's going to be a readjustment. So just saying, watch what really matters. You cannot just watch price, because the price, you won't know until it's too late. It's like, wow, this went all the way up, I'm going to buy. Like, how do you know it's going to? You look at what's going to lead to long-term growth of something pretty crazy.
If you're focused on the dollar price, you don't understand the end game.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that. Sounds harsh, but it's true. I know people are momentum monkeys and they're hitting that F5 button on their keyboard with CoinMarketCap because that's how they measure success.
More importantly, also, if you just understand the price, you don't understand the price. You don't understand. At that point, you're just going to constantly time your exit from the market. When do I get out? When do I stop riding? You know. But remember, he who rides the tiger cannot easily dismount. If you're just on this whole like, woo, hold the Lambo train, at some point you think it keeps going to the moon, keeps going to the moon. If it doesn't, and you're just flying blind based on prices, oh, where's the price going to be? Where is it? Oh, it's going up, it's down, I don't know. That's all your metrics. You're going to have a bad time. You have to start looking at other metrics, such as building a global decentralized financial and data infrastructure the whole world can use. That's something you can get behind.
Wow. So you've got the bull and the bear fighting in the background, and then you've got the tiger rushing past with like the dash holding on tight, going wee-haw, just whizzing past. That's what I imagine from that.
I'd like to see that meme, Mark.
Yeah. Well, you know, another meme, you have to have some kind of meme with Evan saying, this is only a fraction of my full potential when version 1 comes out. Oh, and of course you have like the Infinity Gauntlet meme. I don't know if that's going to be old by then, but you have like chained instant send, chain locks, and then you have like usernames, you're just adding to them.
It is. It's just like the releases.
Snap your fingers and Litecoin disappears.
Once you get to that version 1.0, that's when the magic happens, right? Right. So sorry, Liz. I know we went a bit longer than originally planned, but we love having you on. And of course, you get us all excited, and then we can't shut up talking about Dash.
No, I'm glad. I love the excitement. You know, I've really, I'm super excited too. I mean, every morning I just sort of wake up and I'm like, it feels like we are running really, really fast right now. There's lots of momentum. There's a lot of building excitement within our community, but also we're seeing outside of our community. I mean, just the other day we were sort of talking about how we're starting to see some new faces interacting with us on social media and sort of asking questions and
like Fluffy Pony. That's a different story.
Yeah, that's more inspiration.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an exciting time for Dash, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So
it's like the world's best kept secret right now. And if you want to be in that secret, great. I mean, but don't be selfish. Don't just keep it to yourself. Tell your loved ones and your friends as well. Yeah. But and be inquisitive as well. I think this is the important thing. And I think this is why we really wanted you to come on the podcast, because we get that inside track. Sometimes it's hard to know what's going on behind closed doors. So Liz, hopefully you can help me and we can get Dana to come on the podcast next Friday if he's available. And then we can talk about the developer side, like how we're going to get the developers engaged. Because I know he's been doing some things, so he can reveal what he's been up to and what he foresees as being like the way to fish in the developers and reel them in.
I love it. Yeah, I'm sure. I know that he would love to join you guys for this. So yeah.
And then Brian, and then we could talk about like the wallets and stuff. And then Joelle can give them a really hard time about adding private send functionality. That has to happen.
Oh yeah, I'm going to prepare all kinds of memes for that one.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Liz. Do you mind people emailing you? I mean, you're on Discord and stuff already, right? And and we know you're busy, but for those that don't know, because although that you're kind of, it seems like you're in charge of doing like the weekly updates, but sometimes you've got other members of your team posting those as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's blog.dash.org, weekly updates, which typically come out on a Thursday evening for me here in the UK. And that seems to be like standard now, right? That's like clockwork. Yeah,
pretty much. I'm late on this week's just because of the holiday in the US and lots of meetings today, but it will be coming out shortly. We are also looking at doing Because we've gotten some feedback that, as you said at the beginning, Mark, sometimes the weekly updates are a little bit difficult to follow, especially because they're short form. And that's what makes it possible for us to do kind of those weekly updates, is to keep it fairly short. But we are looking at doing a more, or I should say, a less techie, a little bit more human monthly update as well. So stay tuned for that. I'm not sure when those are going to start happening, but that's the goal. And yeah, as you said, please feel free to email me, reach out on Discord. I'd love just feedback on what we're doing, thoughts on what you think the most powerful use cases for evolution will be. Reach out.
Excellent.
Reach out and touch someone.
And you had to mention Independence Day, didn't you? It's still sore, but
Sorry.
had to rub that in. You had to get that in there. Well, I was drinking plenty cups of tea yesterday. Okay, I just want to let everyone out there know.
Yes, it's okay.
But
it's
we're
okay.
all
treason is the reason for the season,
and we're all
gonna
fighting for
we're
a
all on the
common
same.
cause.
We're all on the same side of this conflict, though, right? Treason against the banks.
Exactly. And this is why Dash is great. It's a borderless, decentralized digital currency for the world. So Dash gives the gift of financial freedom, and you can't put a price on that. There you go.
All right. Time to wrap it up, huh?
I think so. Joel, do you want to take us out?
Yes. If you like what you listen to, and you should, if you're a good person, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure to leave a few different comments out there, because I do listen to them. I do read them. And if you're into the audio only version of this, not just the Dash YouTube show, but the Dash News podcast, every Saturday we put out a post that has all the links to iTunes, Stitcher, all the other places you can access this, and that's audio only. And of course, now it's the time for the after party, which is just like this, except a bunch more people, a bunch of random people. You can get in there too, just chatting about Dashy stuff for as long as possible. Don't worry, it's not recorded, so you can confess all kinds of things, confess your sins to us. And that goes on for a while. How you get to the after party? First, you got to get to the Dash Talk Discord, the #1 Dash Discord in the world. You go to staydashy.com. And there it is in the live chat now. Staydashy.com. That just gets you right in there. You just start asking, hey, where's the after party at? Can I get in the after party? And then someone monitoring will put you in.
And that one person is normally me.
Yes,
but I will be
most of
keeping
the
an eye
time.
out. Yes. So I hope you found this to be informative. If you've enjoyed it, please hit that like button, smash for Dash, and don't forget to share and subscribe. And just because I did this last week, I thought it went really well, so I'm going to try it again. So don't just subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to be alerted about future Dash videos, so you don't miss any of our amazing content, because we have some amazing guests on, like Liz, and hopefully we have Dana next week. So there's so many more people in the Dash Core group team that we need to get on. So anyway, it's Friday night here. If you are American, I hope you enjoyed Independence Day. All right, I'll say it. But it's the weekend anyway for everyone else. So the weekend has landed. Have a fantastic weekend wherever you are in the world. Stay positive, stay humble, but most importantly, stay dashy. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Peace.
Bye. Thanks.